The boy pressed his small palm against the cold hospital glass, his wide brown eyes locked on a tall woman striding through the lobby below. She moved like the world bent slightly for her passage, heels striking clean against the polished floor, her black coat flowing like silk in motion, chestnut hair shining under fluorescent light. The father followed his son's gaze and felt confusion sharpen into disbelief when the boy whispered, voice trembling with awe, "Daddy, that's my mommy." The man froze, his cracked hands tightening on the boy's thin shoulders. That woman was no patient, no visitor. She was the CEO whose face had been on billboards, magazines, even the news. And yet, his sickly son had just claimed her as his mother. For weeks, David had been pushing through exhaustion, dragging his boy from clinic to clinic, searching for affordable help. His work boots were worn through at the soles, ducked, taped at the edges. At night, their tiny apartment's fridge hummed with emptiness, offering only half a jug of milk, a shriveled apple, and a stale loaf of bread. The ceiling bulb flickered, shadows making the peeling wallpaper look even more hopeless. His boy, Ethan, coughed through the nights, clutching a stuffed toy with one button eye missing. David's chest tightened every time he counted coins at the pharmacy counter, feeling the pharmacist's pitying stare as he slid change across the counter. It was never enough for the real medicine. Now, in the stark brightness of the city hospital, David had expected only another round of tests, another reminder of what he couldn't afford. But this moment with Ethan pointing at a woman who lived in a different world, tore something open inside him. He knelt, brushing back his son's damp hair. "Buddy, she can't be your mommy. You know your mom passed when you were a baby." His voice cracked as he said it, and Ethan's lips trembled. I feel like she is," he murmured, hugging himself against a cough. Downstairs, the woman paused to answer her phone, her posture straight, commanding, yet her laugh was surprisingly warm, carrying up faintly through the atrium. Something about it stirred unease in David, like a memory half remembered. They left the hospital hours later with a list of expensive treatments David couldn't begin to pay for. The cold air bit into their thin jackets as they walked to the bus stop. Ethan's sneakers were frayed at the tips, and he dragged one foot as if too tired to lift it fully. David tucked him close, pulling his own coat tighter, though the lining had long since ripped. When the bus pulled up, David counted out trance for slips instead of cash. He kept his gaze down, embarrassed by the driver's glance. 2 days later, the boy's condition worsened. David carried him into the hospital again, his back aching, arms straining, but refusing to let go. And there she was, the same woman. This time she was at the reception desk, her fitted crimson blouse and tailored black skirt making her look like she belonged to another realm entirely. People stepped aside without her asking. She signed something briskly, her rings catching the light, then turned. Her eyes, sharp green, flicked up and met David's. For a heartbeat, the hospital noise fell away. She didn't look away. Instead, her brow furrowed, her gaze shifting to Ethan coughing weakly against his father's chest. A flicker of something, recognition, crossed her face. She walked over, her heels soft against the linoleum. David's throat tightened. He shifted his son, suddenly self, conscious of the duct tape on his backpack, the grease stains on his sleeves, the exhaustion etched into his face. "Is he all right?" Her voice was lower now, stripped of its earlier command. David tried to answer, but words snagged in his throat. Just waiting for the doctor," he managed. Ethan lifted his head, and his lips curled in the faintest smile. "Mommy," he whispered again, and the woman's eyes widened, her breath catching audibly. David's chest burned. "I'm sorry. He gets confused. His mother passed years ago." He couldn't meet her eyes. But she didn't look offended. She crouched down despite her immaculate skirt, reaching gently toward Ethan. "Sweetheart, what's your name, Ethan?" He coughed. Her hand lingered near his cheek, though she didn't quite touch him. Her eyes flicked up to David's, and something unreadable passed between them. Pity, maybe, or something heavier. Then a nurse called her name, MS Hartwell, and David realized with a jolt he'd heard it before. Caroline Hartwell, CEO of Hartwell Industries, a woman whose company's name was printed on the back of half the city's buses. She stood slowly, smoothing her coat back into place, her composure returning like a mask. "Take care of him," she said softly, then walked away. But as she left, she glanced over her shoulder once, her gaze lingering too long, her lips pressed tight as if holding back words. David's heart hammered. Why would she look at his son that way? Why would Ethan, who'd never seen her before, call her mother without hesitation? He sank into a plastic chair, rocking Ethan gently, but his mind churned with questions he couldn't silence. Something connected them, something he didn't understand. When he carried Ethan home that night, through streets lit by buzzing neon and fast food signs they couldn't afford to enter, the boy slept against his chest, whispering even in dreams, "Mommy." David's jaw tightened. For the first time, he wondered if his son knew something he didn't, and when he reached their apartment door, an envelope lay tucked beneath it, heavy, cream-colored, embossed with the Hartwell Industries seal. David froze, the envelope shaking in his tired hands, his son stirring weakly in his arms. David's hands trembled as he slid the envelope free, its weight too deliberate to be mistaken for junk mail. He carried Ethan inside, laying him gently on the thin mattress in their one-room apartment. The boy curled under the patched blanket, coughing lightly, his face pale. David switched on the single lamp, its bulb flickering, and slit the envelope open with a key. Inside lay a letter on thick ivory paper, the script elegant and sharp. "Mr. Miller, please come to the Hartwell Tower, 18th floor, tomorrow at noon. Bring Ethan with you. This is important." No signature, only the embossed logo at the bottom. David's throat tightened. Hartwell Tower was a world he'd only passed on buses, its glass walls shining like untouchable crystal. He stared at the letter for a long time before folding it back into the envelope and setting it on the table beside their empty cereal box. The next day, he dressed Ethan in his cleanest shirt, though the collar was frayed and the hem uneven. His own jacket smelled faintly of engine oil from odd jobs, but he brushed it down as best he could. They caught the bus downtown, David counting the last of his coins while Ethan leaned against him, silent but watchful. When they reached Hartwell Tower, David froze on the sidewalk. The building soared into the clouds, its glass reflecting the gray sky, revolving doors gliding silently with polished ease. Men in tailored suits and women in sleek dresses passed by without sparing a glance at his worn boots or Ethan's scuffed sneakers. The contrast felt cruel, but he squared his shoulders and pushed forward. Inside, the marble lobby gleamed. A fountain trickled softly under a skylight, and a receptionist in a fitted navy blazer looked up with professional detachment. "Do you have an appointment?" David held out the envelope with his calloused hand. She scanned it, her expression shifting slightly. 18th floor. They're expecting you." The elevator ride felt endless, the mirrors reflecting every crease in his clothes, every shadow under his eyes. Ethan pressed his forehead against the glass, whispering, "Daddy, it feels like we're flying." When the doors opened, a hushed world of glass walls and minimalist design stretched before them. Caroline Hartwell stood near the window, her silhouette framed by the skyline. She wore a fitted black dress that hugged her figure, a deep red scarf at her throat, her hair falling in soft waves. She turned slowly, her green eyes catching theirs. "Mr. Miller, Ethan," she said, her voice measured yet soft. "Thank you for coming." David shifted uncomfortably, clutching his son's hand. Why? Why us? Why this letter? Caroline's gaze flicked to Ethan, and her lips pressed into a thin line before she gestured toward the leather chairs. "Please sit." She remained standing, her arms crossed as though holding herself together. "I didn't mean to intrude at the hospital," she began, her voice steady but threaded with something raw. "But when your son looked at me, when he called me that word." Her throat tightened, and she glanced away toward the skyline. It wasn't the first time someone has told me I might have family I didn't know about. David frowned. I don't understand. Caroline turned back, her green eyes fierce yet glistening. Years ago, I made choices, selfish ones. I left behind someone I loved. I didn't know he left a child behind too. David's chest constricted. You're saying, you think Ethan, I'm saying. She cut in gently, her voice trembling for the first time, that I want to help. Whether or not he is mine, no child should suffer like this, not when I can change it. Ethan tilted his head, studying her with wide eyes. You really feel like my mommy, he whispered, and Caroline's composure cracked. She knelt, her stylish dress pooling on the polished floor, and cupped his face in her manicured hands. Her lip trembled as she said, Sweetheart, if you'll let me, I'll make sure you're never cold or hungry again. David's throat burned. Pride and desperation collided inside him, leaving him raw. I don't want charity, he muttered, his fists clenched. I've worked hard to give him what I can. He's my son. I won't let him be a project. Caroline's eyes softened. She reached into her handbag and pulled out not money, not checks, but a folder. Then don't take it as charity. Take it as fairness, medical care, proper housing, schooling, things he deserves. I can cover these, no strings attached, but I want to be in his life, however he'll allow it. Ethan coughed again, his small body shaking, and David instinctively pulled him close. In that moment, the tension cracked, because it was no longer about pride or power or past mistakes. It was about saving his boy. Caroline leaned forward, her voice low, urgent. One act of kindness once rerouted my life. A teacher paid my tuition when no one else would. That's why I stand where I do today. Let me be that for him. David's jaw worked, emotions choking him. He looked at Ethan, whose tired eyes sparkled faintly with hope as he whispered, Please, Daddy. She feels like family. Silence stretched. Then David nodded just once, and Caroline exhaled sharply, tears brimming but not falling. She stood, pulling a card from her coat. We'll start immediately. Doctors, a new place, and David. You're not losing him. You'll always be his father. Maybe together we can give him what he deserves. Weeks later, Ethan laughed freely in a sunlit clinic room, toy cars scattered at his feet. His cheeks were rosy now, his cough fading with treatment. David stood by the window, watching Caroline kneel to play with his son, her scarf draped carelessly, her smile real and unguarded. He felt something unexpected, not just relief, but gratitude for a world where strangers could become family. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a lie. And in that quiet, David understood the moral his life had carved into him. One act of generosity, offered at the right moment, can rewrite a future. Caroline's teacher had once done it for her, and now, through her, Ethan's life had been rerouted too.